You know, sometimes it feels like the little aches and pains just sneak up on you, doesn't it? You wake up feeling pretty good, maybe ready to tackle the day, and then, bam, a headache. Not a little twinge, but a real throbbing. Where did that come from? Kind of headache. And if you're like me, pushing past that 70-year mark, it can feel like they come around a bit more often than they used to. Or maybe it's just that we notice them more now, paying closer attention to what our bodies are telling us. It's easy to brush them off, isn't it? Blame the weather, blame a bad night's sleep, blame the news, and sure, sometimes it is those things. Life throws all sorts of curveballs and our bodies react. But what if some of these persistent headaches, these ones that seem to hang around or pop up out of nowhere, are linked to something we do every single day, something fundamental to how we live? What if they're connected to what we're putting into our bodies? Now, I'm no doctor, and this isn't medical advice, not one bit. If you're getting frequent or severe headaches, please talk to your doctor. They can help you figure out what's really going on. But what I want to share with you today is something I've learned over my 70 years, through a lot of trial and error, and through paying attention to how my own body reacts. It's about noticing patterns. And one pattern I've noticed, both in myself and talking with others, is how certain foods seem to be sneaky culprits when it comes to triggering those unwelcome head pounders. Think about it. We eat multiple times a day, every single day. Our diet is one of the most consistent things we do. And while we often focus on food for energy or just enjoyment, we might not always consider how it's affecting the subtle things, like whether or not we end up with a splitting headache by the afternoon. For folks our age, metabolism can slow down, sensitivities we never had before might pop up, and our bodies just process things a little differently. What was fine at 30 or 40 might be causing problems now. So, that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to look at 5 foods, common ones, maybe even ones you eat regularly that have been linked to headaches, and why they might be causing you grief, especially now. The goal isn't to tell you to never eat these things again, but rather to give you some awareness, some things to watch out for, and maybe a little nudge to see if making some small changes could make a big difference in your daily comfort. It's about gaining a little more control, a little more understanding of our own bodies, and maybe, just maybe, saying goodbye to some of those unnecessary headaches. Let's start with the first one on the list, and this one might surprise you, especially if you think of it as a treat or a little pick me up. We're talking about aged cheese. Yes, that delicious, sometimes pungent, often flavorful cheese that gets better with age. Think cheddar, Parmesan, blue cheese, Gorgonzola, even Swiss. While they are undeniably tasty and can be part of a healthy diet in moderation, they contain something called tyramine. Tyramine is a naturally occurring compound that forms in foods as they age or ferment. The longer a cheese ages, generally, the higher the tyramine content. Now, the exact link between tyramine and headaches, particularly migraines, isn't fully understood, and it doesn't affect everyone. Some people seem to be more sensitive to it than others. The theory is that tyramine can affect blood vessels, causing them to constrict and then dilate, which can potentially trigger a headache in susceptible individuals. Think of it like this. Your blood vessels are usually pretty relaxed, letting blood flow smoothly. Tyramine might act like a temporary irritant for some people, causing those vessels to tighten up and then suddenly loosen. And that rapid change could be the trigger for that familiar pounding in your head. For folks over 60, several factors might increase sensitivity. As we age, our bodies might process compounds like tyramine differently. Underlying health conditions that become more common with age, like high blood pressure or certain circulatory issues, could potentially interact with tyramine's effects on blood vessels, although more research is always needed on these complex interactions. It's less about a definite scientific proof for everyone and more about observing patterns. Many people, including myself and friends I've talked to, have noticed that a plate of aged cheese, perhaps enjoyed with a glass of wine, which is another potential headache trigger we might touch on later, seems to be followed by a headache a few hours later or the next day. So, what can you do if you suspect aged cheese might be contributing to your headaches? You don't necessarily have to swear off cheese forever. The first step is awareness. Pay attention. If you have a headache after eating aged cheese, make a mental note. Try reducing the amount you eat or skipping it for a while to see if your headaches decrease. If you find a link, you might try sticking to younger cheeses like mozzarella, ricotta, or cottage cheese, which are much lower in tyramine. It's all about becoming a detective for your own body. Listen to the clues it's giving you. Moving on to the next potential headache trigger, and this one is perhaps even more common in many people's diets: processed meats. We're talking about hot dogs, bacon, deli meats, sausages, jerky, and cured meats. These foods are often packed with flavor, convenient, and let's be honest, pretty tasty. But they also frequently contain additives like nitrates and nitrites. These compounds are used for preserving the meat, preventing bacterial growth, and enhancing color and flavor. Like tyramine, nitrates and nitrites have been linked to headaches in some people. The mechanism isn't fully nailed down, but one theory is that they can cause blood vessels to dilate or widen. While some dilation is normal and healthy, for certain individuals, particularly those prone to headaches, this rapid or significant dilation might be a trigger. It's almost like the blood vessels get a sudden jolt, and that reaction manifests as pain in the head. Consider the context of aging. As we get older, our circulatory system might not be as resilient or adaptable as it once was. Blood pressure can fluctuate, and the elasticity of blood vessels can change. Introducing substances like nitrates and nitrites that directly influence blood vessel behavior could potentially have a more pronounced effect on triggering headaches in a system that's already undergone some natural changes over 7 decades. Think about enjoying a hearty breakfast with bacon or grabbing a sandwich with deli meat for lunch. These are common occurrences. But if you find yourself frequently reaching for the aspirin bottle afterwards, it might be worth considering if those processed meats are playing a role. It's not about fear mongering, it's about making informed choices based on how your body responds. Reducing your intake of processed meats can be a simple yet effective step if you suspect they are contributing to your headaches. Look for nitrate-free options when possible, or simply try to limit how often you consume them. Swap out deli meat for fresh chicken or tuna packed in water. Less salt is better. Choose unprocessed cuts of meat when you can. Small shifts in your grocery cart and meal planning can add up to a significant difference in how you feel day to day. It's about finding alternatives that nourish you without bringing on the pain. These first two potential culprits, aged cheese and processed meats, share a common theme. They contain naturally occurring or added compounds that can affect blood vessels. And for some of us, especially as we navigate the later decades of life, our bodies might be more sensitive to these effects. It's not a hard and fast rule for everyone, but they are definitely worth investigating if headaches are a regular uninvited guest. Now that we've explored how aged cheese and processed meats might be connected to your headaches, let's continue our look into foods that could be causing you trouble. We've got a few more to go, each with its own potential mechanism for triggering discomfort. It's a journey of discovery, really, learning how to listen to your body and make choices that support your well-being. Let's keep going and see what else might be on your headache trigger list. All right, let's pick up right where we left off, continuing our chat about the sneaky ways certain foods might be contributing to those unwelcome headaches. We've already talked about how aged cheese and processed meats, with their unique compounds and additives, could be triggers for some of us, particularly as our bodies change over time. Now, let's move on to another food that many of us enjoy, often as a comfort or a treat, and one that has a surprisingly common link to headaches: chocolate. Ah, chocolate. For so many, it's a little square of happiness, a reward, a moment of indulgence. Whether it's a dark, rich bar or a creamy milk chocolate, it holds a special place in our hearts and on our palates. But sadly, for some people, especially those prone to headaches or migraines, chocolate can be a significant trigger. Why chocolate? Well, it contains several substances that could play a role. One is phenylethylamine, a naturally occurring compound that can affect blood flow in the brain. It's similar in structure to some amphetamines and can cause changes in blood pressure and blood sugar. Another potential culprit is caffeine, which is present in chocolate, especially darker varieties. We'll talk more about caffeine in a moment, but it's known to affect blood vessels. Chocolate also contains other compounds like flavonoids and theobromine, which have various effects on the body, some positive, but the combination of these substances might be the issue for sensitive individuals. The link between chocolate and headaches is a bit like the others we've discussed. It doesn't affect everyone the same way. Some people can eat chocolate every day with no problem, while others find that even a small amount can bring on a headache within hours. The older we get, the more likely it is that we might develop new sensitivities, or perhaps existing sensitivities become more pronounced. Our body's ability to process certain compounds can change, making us more susceptible to their effects. Consider the timing. Have you ever had a particularly stressful day, reached for a comforting piece of chocolate, and then later that evening found yourself with a throbbing head? It's easy to blame the stress, and stress is certainly a huge factor in headaches, but the chocolate could have been the extra nudge that pushed your system over the edge. Or maybe you enjoy a chocolate dessert after dinner a few nights a week, and you notice you often wake up with a dull headache. These are the patterns to watch for. If you suspect chocolate is a trigger for you, the best approach is observation and moderation. Try keeping a simple food diary for a week or two, noting when you eat chocolate and when you experience headaches. You might find a clear connection, or you might find there isn't one. If there seems to be a link, you don't necessarily have to eliminate it entirely. Perhaps you can tolerate milk chocolate, but not dark chocolate. Dark chocolate generally has higher levels of the potentially problematic compounds. Or maybe you can enjoy a small piece occasionally, but not a whole bar. It's about finding your personal threshold, understanding what works for your body at this stage in your life. It's not about deprivation, it's about empowerment, knowing how to enjoy life's little pleasures without the unwelcome side effects. Now, speaking of caffeine, that brings us to our fourth potential headache trigger. This one is tricky because caffeine is a double-edged sword when it comes to headaches. For some people, a little bit of caffeine can actually help alleviate a headache, which is why it's an ingredient in some over-the counter pain relievers. It can constrict blood vessels, which might help if your headache is caused by dilation. However, for many others, caffeine is a major headache trigger. This can happen in two main ways: consuming too much caffeine or experiencing caffeine withdrawal. Let's talk about having too much first. If you're a regular coffee, tea, or soda drinker, you might build up a tolerance to caffeine. But if you suddenly consume a larger amount than usual, say, an extra cup of coffee, a large energy drink, or even just have caffeine later in the day than you normally do, it can disrupt your usual pattern and potentially trigger a headache. This is often related to caffeine's effect on blood vessels, that constriction, and subsequent potential dilation. The other side of the coin is caffeine withdrawal. If you regularly consume caffeine and then suddenly stop or significantly reduce your intake, you can experience withdrawal symptoms, and one of the most common and debilitating is a headache. This withdrawal headache often feels like a dull, throbbing pain, sometimes on both sides of the head. It happens because your blood vessels have become used to the constricting effect of caffeine. When you remove the caffeine, the vessels rebound and dilate, which can increase blood flow and pressure in the head, leading to pain. For older adults, withdrawal symptoms might sometimes feel more intense or linger longer, simply because our systems can be a bit slower to adjust. So, what's the strategy with caffeine? Consistency seems to be key for many. If you enjoy caffeine, try to consume a consistent amount at consistent times each day. Avoid large, sudden increases. If you decide to cut back on caffeine, do it gradually. Reduce your intake slowly over several days or even a week to allow your body to adjust without the shock of sudden withdrawal. For example, if you drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning, try switching to 1.5 for a few days, then 1 cup, and so on. Switching to decaf or lower, caffeine teas can also be helpful steps. Again, it's about finding the balance that works for you, enjoying what you like in a way that supports your well-being, not detracts from it. Finally, let's look at our fifth potential headache trigger, artificial sweeteners. These are found in countless sugar-free or diet products, sodas, yogurts, desserts, chewing gum, even some medications. Common ones include aspartame, sucralose, Splenda, saccharin, and acesulfame potassium. The idea behind using them is often to reduce sugar intake, which can be beneficial for various health reasons. However, for some people, artificial sweeteners appear to be linked to headaches. The scientific evidence directly linking artificial sweeteners to headaches is not as strong or consistent as it is for something like caffeine withdrawal or nitrates in processed meats. Research has been mixed, and it can be difficult to isolate the effects of artificial sweeteners from other factors in a person's diet or lifestyle. However, anecdotal evidence, that is, what people report experiencing, is quite significant. Many individuals report getting headaches, sometimes severe ones, after consuming products containing artificial sweeteners, particularly aspartame. The proposed mechanisms for how artificial sweeteners might cause headaches are less clear. Some theories involve their potential effects on neurotransmitters in the brain, or perhaps triggering a type of hypersensitivity reaction in certain individuals. It might also be that the headache is not a direct chemical reaction, but more of a sensitivity or intolerance that manifests as head pain. As we age, our digestive systems and overall body chemistry can change, potentially making us more sensitive to artificial compounds that our bodies don't naturally process. What might have been tolerated without issue at 40 could become problematic at 70. If you regularly consume diet drinks or sugar-free products and also experience frequent headaches, it's worth considering artificial sweeteners as a potential culprit. Just like with chocolate and aged cheese, the best approach is observation. Try eliminating artificial sweeteners from your diet for a few weeks and see if your headaches improve. Read labels carefully, as they are hidden in many products. If you notice a difference, you can then try reintroducing them slowly, one type at a time, to see if you can identify a specific sweetener that causes issues. If you find a link, you can opt for naturally sweetened options or simply reduce your intake of sweetened beverages and foods altogether, focusing on water, unsweetened tea, and whole, unprocessed foods. So there you have it, 5 common foods or food components that could potentially be contributing to your headaches: aged cheese, processed meats, chocolate, caffeine, both excess and withdrawal, and artificial sweeteners. We've explored why they might cause trouble, especially as we navigate the later decades of life. Remember, this isn't about fear, it's about knowledge and self-awareness. It's about listening to the signals your body is sending. Now that we've gone through these specific foods and the reasons they might be causing you grief, it's important to tie this all together and think about what you can actually do with this information. It's not enough to just know the potential triggers. The power comes from applying that knowledge in your daily life to feel better. And that's what we'll talk about next. We'll look at how to put this into practice, how to experiment safely, and how these small dietary adjustments fit into the bigger picture of living well and reducing those frustrating headaches. Let's keep this conversation going. All right, so we've taken a good look at 5 potential culprits that might be lurking in your kitchen or your favorite snacks: aged cheese, processed meats, chocolate, caffeine, and artificial sweeteners. We've talked about why they might be causing trouble, the compounds they contain, and how our bodies, especially as we get a bit older, might react differently to them. It's a lot to think about, isn't it? It can feel a little overwhelming at first, thinking that some of the foods you enjoy could be the very things causing you discomfort. But remember, this isn't about pointing fingers or making you feel guilty about what you eat. Not at all. It's about gaining knowledge. It's about shining a light on potential connections you might not have considered before. We're not saying these foods are bad universally, or that they definitely cause headaches for everyone. What we're saying is that for some people, and surprisingly often for those of us in our 60s, 70s, and beyond, these 5 things show up repeatedly on lists of headache triggers. They are worth investigating in your own life. Think of it like this: you're becoming a detective for your own body. you're gathering clues. You've got the list of suspects: the aged cheese, the deli slices, that afternoon chocolate bar, your morning coffee or lack of it, and anything with sugar free on the label. Now it's time for the investigation phase. How do you investigate? The most effective way I know, the way many people successfully identify their triggers, is through observation and a simple process of elimination and reintroduction. It takes a little patience, a little discipline, but the potential payoff, fewer headaches and more comfortable days, is absolutely worth it. Start with observation. For a week or two, just pay attention. You don't even have to change anything yet. When you get a headache, think back to what you ate in the hours leading up to it. Maybe even the day before. Did you have aged cheddar on crackers, a ham sandwich for lunch? Did you indulge in some dark chocolate? Did you skip your usual coffee? Did you have a diet soda? Jot it down, even if it's just a quick note in a small notebook or on your phone. Don't try to guess if it was the food. Just record what you ate and when the headache occurred. This helps you start seeing potential patterns that you might miss otherwise. Sometimes the connection isn't obvious until you see it written down. Once you have a week or two of notes, look for common themes. Do your headaches often happen after you eat a specific type of food from our list? If you start to see a pattern, say, headaches frequently appear on days you've had processed meat or significant amounts of artificial sweetener, then you move to the next step, elimination. Pick one suspected food trigger based on your observations, just one to start with, so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Let's say your notes suggest aged cheese might be an issue. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, consciously avoid aged cheese completely. Read labels carefully, ask questions if you're eating out. During this elimination phase, keep noting any headaches. Do they decrease in frequency or intensity? If they do, you've likely found a significant trigger. If eliminating that first suspect doesn't make a noticeable difference in your headaches, that's okay. It just means that particular food isn't likely a major trigger for you right now. Move on to the next food on your suspect list based on your observations and repeat the elimination process for 2 to 3 weeks. Let's say, after eliminating aged cheese, your headaches did significantly improve. Now comes the reintroduction phase. This is where you confirm your findings. After those 2 to 3 weeks of being headache-free or having fewer headaches, deliberately consume a typical portion of that suspected food, in this case, aged cheese. Don't eat a huge amount, but a normal serving size. Then, pay close attention to how you feel over the next 24–48 hours. Does the headache return? Does it feel like the same kind of headache you used to get? If eating that food brings the headache back, you've found your culprit. This elimination and reintroduction process is powerful because it's personalized. It cuts through the general information and tells you exactly how your body reacts. It requires patience, yes, and it might mean making some temporary sacrifices, but knowing your personal triggers is incredibly empowering. Once you know, you can make informed choices. You might decide to avoid that food entirely, or perhaps you find you can tolerate a very small amount occasionally. It gives you the control. And it's important to remember that diet is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to headaches. Hydration is crucial. Sometimes a headache is simply your body telling you it's thirsty. Getting enough quality sleep, managing stress through relaxation techniques or activities you enjoy, and staying gently active with things like walking or stretching can all play a huge role in reducing the frequency and severity of headaches. All these lifestyle factors work together, and addressing them holistically can make a world of difference. Making changes to your diet or lifestyle might feel like a big undertaking, especially if you've been doing things a certain way for many years. But remember, you're not trying to become a completely different person overnight. You're just trying to feel a little bit better, a little more comfortable, day by day, and small changes really do add up. Choosing water instead of a diet soda, opting for fresh chicken instead of deli meat, being mindful of how much aged cheese is on your plate, these are achievable steps. You've lived a full 70 years, or close to it, gathering wisdom and experience. You know how to adapt, how to learn, how to navigate challenges. This is just another area. Where that lifetime of experience comes into play It's about using that wisdom to listen to your body and give it what it needs to feel its best. Reducing headaches isn't just about getting rid of pain, it's about freeing up your energy, clearing your mind, and improving your quality of life so you can fully enjoy your days. You have the power to make choices that support your well-being. Investigating potential food triggers is one powerful tool in your toolkit. Don't be discouraged if it takes time or if some foods you thought were triggers aren't, and others you never suspected turn out to be. It's a process of discovery, and every step you take towards understanding your body better is a step towards living more comfortably and vibrantly. I truly hope that exploring these potential food connections gives you a starting point, a path to follow if headaches are holding you back. Your experiences, your insights are valuable. If you found specific foods trigger your headaches, or if you try this elimination process, I'd love to hear about it. Sharing our experiences helps us all learn and grow. Please feel free to leave a comment below and let us know what you've discovered. If you found this information helpful, if it sparked some ideas for you, please give this video a like. It helps us know we're creating content that resonates with you. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. We're here to share insights, ideas, and motivation for living your best life at any age, and we've got many more topics to explore together. Remember, age is a number, but how you feel is what truly matters. You deserve to feel good, to feel energetic, and to have as many headache-free days as possible. Here's to your health, your comfort, and to living your best life vibrantly and fully, no matter your age. Keep listening to your body, keep making those small, powerful choices, and keep being the incredible person you are.